get to hear from some folks we don't get to hear from often as a group. The Domestic Relations Counseling Bureau of the St. Joseph County Courts has been around I don't know how long. I once saw this information, but it has slipped my mind. Certainly since I started practicing in late 1991, the DRCB existed and was used quite frequently. In the old days, let's see, Mr. Drendel, Mr. Blanford, Mr. Fadden, Mr. Filippello, and myself, God, we are all a bunch of the old guard. We remember when DRCB was where you went for a custody evaluation. And we also remember that we had to tell people, this is going to take a while. Mr. Rose, you were in on this too. I just didn't want to come in on your age, you know, trying to be polite. But DRCB today has a completely, I mean, they can still do a custody evaluation, but they have different goals in mind and services that they offer. So I've asked Michael Schadler, who's the director of the DRCB, to come talk this afternoon. And he thought that it would be a very good idea if he brought some of the staff members who work these cases to come along. So Mr. Schadler and company, you have the floor.
I have to stand at the podium?
You can, or you can wander around, whatever.
Okay.
Just don't wander out the door.
I'm used to wandering. Good afternoon. I'm Michael. I am currently the director of the Domestic Relations Counseling Bureau. I'm going to give you a little bit of background. We're new and improved, and I'll get to what I'm talking to or referring to when I say that. Let me give you a little bit of background. In 1979, the Indiana General Assembly authorized the creation of domestic relations. And in 1982, the judges of the Circuit Court and Superior Court decided that they should have a Domestic Relations Counseling Bureau. So it's been in existence ever since then. Now, originally, the director was a priest from Notre Dame, a John Semino. And then later on in 2004, Beth Kearns took over as director. And I'm the follow-up after that. And I took over in 2017. Back then, when I first got here, it was 2005, we did evaluations. And we did screenings, assessments to figure out what the risks were during, for the family. Since then, we've accumulated a lot of different tasks and services. Now, this handout that I gave you, or somebody gave you, identifies some of the main services that we do. And I have my staff here, and they're going to talk about 3 specific services, which are the main ones. Evaluations, which we've been doing since the very beginning. Case management, which works with the families. And mediation. And mediation is the probably best method for addressing the issues for the children. And it's the easiest for them. It gets rid of the anxiety and stress that the children have to go through while their parents are involved in the court process. Now, there's also another flyer that lists all, well, I don't know if all of them are on there, but it should be most of the services that we currently do or have done in the last 5-6 years. If you have any questions about those, you can always call, ask. We are willing to work with you, talk with you. When I first took over, the policy or procedures were to limit our contact with attorneys. We found that it works better if we can get the attorney to work with their clients and convince them to work with us and the court. and we seem to accomplish a lot more if that's the case. So we've changed our policy about not talking to attorneys, and we want very much for you to call and ask us questions, work with us if you can, and we have a lot of different ways of working with you. Now, we do not talk about evaluations or the end. We do talk about the process, the material that we collect, and but the report part, we do not talk with you till the very end. Even at the end, we send the report to the court. That belongs to the court. The court can talk to you about it, or you can discuss it during the hearings, which is usually the case. We had Judge Crone, who in 1986 was part of the circuit court, and he became the chief judge for the circuit court, and was, I guess, the judge that worked primarily for developing the policies and procedures that DRCB follows. Following Judge Crone, did I say Judge Crone? Okay. Following Judge Crone, we had Michael Gotch, who later moved on to the federal court, who decided in, 2012, that the individuals that were being hired by domestic relations did not have sufficient professional information, training, and he decided to make the positions master's degree level. And so it's been that way ever since. Now, we've had some difficulty hiring master's degree individuals because we don't get paid at the same level as the social workers in the community. As a matter of fact, we're probably making about $20,000 less than they do in the community. Right now, I have some very dedicated people who have stayed on with the department because they believe in what they're doing. How long that'll last, I don't know. But it's always a battle to try to get them more compensation to do what they do. So the first person I'm going to introduce is Emma Smith. She's a family court specialist, and she's going to talk to you about the evaluation process. If you have questions at any time, please feel free to let us know, and we'll do the best we can to answer them. Do we have any questions currently? Emma?
Hi everyone, I'm Emma Smith again. So I'm going to talk about the eval process, and then after I'm finished, you can ask me any questions that you may have. So prior to me getting started with the eval, what I like to do is get information from Odyssey. So I will review the current order, and once I review the order, I'll review all the other orders to get a better idea of what's going on with the case. And so after that, I'll look at the petitions and motions as well. And so then I'll do a background check, and I'll review that information, and then I'll get the clients in for their initial appointment. So during the initial screening, those initial screenings could take up to 2 hours for those appointments, because during that time, there's a lot of information, right? We have a lot of questions to ask, and typically, because they feel like they haven't had a chance to say what they want to say in court, they kind of let it all out to us. So that's why it's 2 hours. So during that process, we get releases signed. Typically, whichever parent I think has physical custody, I would ask them for maybe medical records, school records, dental records, if I don't get that release signed. So I'll ask them to provide that information for me. So once I receive that information, then I'll interview them, I'll discuss confidentiality, I'll discuss impartiality, and then I'll let them know, I'll give them a copy of the statute that applies to their case. And oftentimes when I meet with clients, they sometimes don't understand why they're there. They're like, I don't know why I'm here. And so I like to read a copy of the order to them, so to help them better understand. And then if they have attorneys, I always encourage them, hey, follow up with your attorney and see if they can explain it to you better than I can if you're not understanding what I'm explaining to you. So after the initial interview, I let the parties know we have an initial and then we have a follow-up interview. And so after the follow-up interview, then I will schedule home visits for both homes and also observations of the parent and the child in the home. And then after observations, I will interview the children, which are the in-cameras. And after the in-cameras, the information that we've signed the releases for, then I'll review that information along with any other information from therapists, doctors, any police reports that the clients might provide to me. And that's going to help me make a decision on possible recommendations for the case. So once I receive all of that information, that's when I go through to basically prove whatever allegation each client is alleging about the other. So a lot of times clients, they tend to believe that if they come and tell us that, hey, this is what happened, that we're supposed to believe them without any proof. So they just assume that, hey, I'm telling you, you need to believe me. And I have to explain to them, well, we do have to have some type of proof. Do you have police records or anything like that? So once I make the recommendations, it could be referrals to community partners for maybe addiction assessments or maybe therapy or just other services that could help the family and also help the judge make a better decision for the family. How I feel or how our department feels that attorneys could help the process is encouraging the clients to cooperate with the order. Because oftentimes they like, I don't want to hear it, I'm not. So if we can get clients to cooperate with us, it can help the process go by a little bit faster with the encouragement. And then also, any attorneys in the room, anything that you think DRCB could do to help the process, I'm open to suggestions and questions. Yes?
Just a quick question. The number of cases you have annually and the approximate time for evaluation.
Michael, the number of cases annually?
The number of cases varies every year. We've been around 150, but it has gone up to 300 in some years. That's been a few years past. COVID threw quite a change in the number of cases we have in the complexity. Part of our change, part of the new DRCB is our timeline. The original procedures established gave us 120 days to complete reports. Talking with the court and the community, mostly the attorneys that we had to deal with, this caused some problems for the families as well as the attorneys and even the court. So we have cut that by 50%. Now we try to target 60 days for a report for an evaluation. So it's 50% less than what we used to spend doing it.
And then, so yeah, we cut the time in half. So it does depend on a lot of different factors though. The cooperation with the clients, whether or not we can get information from the different providers. So that does, because sometimes I know a lot of clients like to rush the process, but when we rush the process, we don't get certain information that could be really valuable to the case when we're rushing. So sometimes those different factors do come into play when getting an eval done. And then we do focused evals up to 2 issues, but parenting time and custody cannot be focused eval. They are comprehensive, so more in depth. Yes?
I remember seeing reports where a party did not participate. How often does that happen? Does that prevent you from doing your report, and if so, why does it prevent you?
So, yes, we do have clients that don't cooperate. Sometimes they're ordered and they just don't want to be bothered. So what we do in those situations, we have a timeline as to the first initial contact, and then we give them 5 to 10 business days. We send out a second notice. We try and reach them by phone, whatever information we have by the court, by phone, by email, and then snail mail. We'll send out first, second notices, and then after that, if we don't have any cooperation, then we'll do a letter to close to the court and let the court know that the client didn't cooperate.
Doesn't that reward the non-cooperating parent by preventing you from doing the report?
Yeah, so sometimes though, I will interview the party that's cooperating, and I'll provide that information in the letter to close. Hey, this is what this client is saying. This is what this client would like to have happen. And then I can't make a recommendation because it takes both parties to cooperate for me to actually do what I need to do to make the proper recommendation. Yes.
The problem used to be that it wasn't the time period of once you got to it, but the waiting list time period used to be like 6 months.
Oh, yeah.
Is
So
there
we
a
don't
time
have a wait
frame?
list.
You don't have one now?
No.
Okay.
No.
Cool.
Anybody else? Okay. Also, at any point throughout the eval, the parties can elect to say, you know what, I don't want to go through with the eval. I would rather mediate this out. So the parties can self-refer to mediation. And if they self-refer to mediation, then at that point, I will stop the eval process. I will have a copy. I will complete a report to the court, and I will attach a copy of the self-referral form to let the court know that the parties have elected to mediate. And then at that point, the case will be reassigned to a mediator in our office. If the parties don't reach a mediated agreement, that case will then come back to me as the evaluator, and then I would have to complete the evaluation. Okay? And so with that being said, I'll pass it over to the mediator. Okay, Michael.
One of the handouts that you received was our report format, just the general areas that we investigate. If you have any input for us on something else that would be beneficial to the court or to the clients that we should include, please let us know. One of the changes we made is due to the fact that we used to lose clients. They'd end up in court, they'd be referred to DRCB, but sometimes we didn't get notified. The clients didn't come to our office, and they just sort of disappeared. You know, 9 months down the road, they might wander in the office and say, oh, we were in court and we were told to come here. Well, whatever was ordered by the court is 9 months old and still pending. So what we now do is when we get the paperwork or the client, we send out an assignment letter. Now, if the attorneys want a copy of that, I figure they have a way to get into the Odyssey to look at the records, so we haven't been sending copies to the attorneys. But if that is something that you really desired, it's something we could do, just have to let us know. But that assignment letter lets the court know that the client showed up, or at least we're proceeding with the referred service. So that helps. So mediation quite often is the best child-focused intervention. And I'm going to let our mediator, Carol Lee, speak next.
I'm going to use my cheat sheet. Even though I've done this for years, I'll forget. I work best in a small room with a few people. Somebody else. All right, so in theory, divorce and separation should be a reorganization of the family structure, but people fight against this reorganization. Sometimes one person doesn't want the family to change, and that can provide conflict. And DRCB provides a safe forum for separating parents to engage in long-term planning for their children. The whole point of separating parents having a relationship at all is to successfully raise their children. That's the whole point. Otherwise, they would never have to see each other again. So That's what we're there for, is to provide the parents with the information they need and to help them follow the orders of the court to successfully continue raising the children even though they're no longer together and they may be in a conflictual relationship. I mean, most of the parents we see are, right? Because we wouldn't get them referred to us if they could handle it by themselves. I keep forgetting there are parents who can actually go through this process without any help. So the process addresses long-term objectives, objective and subjective goals for the parents, not just legal concerns. So in mediation, we're not concerned with the legalities. We leave that to you guys and the judges to deal with. We are interested in what agreements can we get, can we help the parents make that will help these children be all right, because we do see a lot of children that are not okay. We hear really sad stories when we interview children. So what we're trying to do is help this reconstituted family function. And we want them to follow the court orders, but we would like them to be able to make decisions themselves regarding what happens to the children, because that keeps the parents engaged. There's research that shows that when fathers don't have joint legal custody, they tend to pull away from the family. So even though joint legal isn't appropriate in every case, you know, you see parents pulling away from their kids and they don't realize the effects. So we can offer them the services even after mediation. Sometimes we mediate a case and we know the parents are going to struggle with following the agreement. So we ask them to go to case management, or we can ask the court to recommend case management. Now, I don't, as the mediator, whoever's doing the mediation doesn't put any recommendations in there. But our case management program, Terry will discuss next, will help the parents follow whatever agreement the court has approved. So if you wish to send us cases, you can do that too. For mediation, we have a self-referral form on our website. So you can print it off and have your client, or you can, can they just send it to us by email? Yeah. Okay. So we can mediate with self-referred clients or attorney-referred clients before it gets too mired in the court process, if you want to go that route. So we would like to get those cases. Our goal in mediation is to create a parenting plan that helps the parents finish their job. We try to help them understand that the mediated agreement has the goal of benefiting the children, so that the kids have a childhood that's free of constant arguing. And in mediation, we're not at all concerned with which parent wins. We don't care which parent wins. We care what works for the children. That's what we try to, and sometimes it takes a little parent education in the mediation session about what can happen to the children if the parents are only concerned with beating the other parent out of whether it's finances or parenting time. So that's what we focus on, is what the kids need. So we do that the same way. We start out the same way. So when a case comes in to us, we schedule an interview, the same kind of interview that Emma was talking about. And it can take a long time because they have a lot to tell us. They're very frustrated and they want to have someone hear them out. So we listen. Now, I'm sure you do that also for your clients, but maybe not for two clients. So what are we looking for? When I do an interview, I'm looking for domestic violence. I want to know. Now, we might have a PO in the file, but we might not. I mean, we have plenty of domestic violence cases that come to us that have no protective orders. They've never told anybody. Nothing's ever come of it. So they're telling us now, and we have to think about whether it's safe to have them mediate. Now, fortunately, we have a great security system, We have security right downstairs from us. So, and we have actually little panic buttons in our offices, so we just reach over and push them. I've never had to use it. Has anybody? I don't think anybody ever had to use it. Admins had to use it. Okay. So we do the interview. We're looking for the possible domestic violence, so we know where that's going to take us in the mediation, and some of the safeguards we have to write in for the children. We look for CPS involved. So if the family's been involved repeatedly with CPS, we know there are problems. And we write safeguards. If you look, the judges who've received our mediated agreements will see that sometimes we put contingencies in them. You know, if father completes his BIP program, he will have this parenting time. And we write it that way because father's happy, he gets parenting time, and then mother's happy because he has to complete the program together, right? It's already in there. And the judge can enforce that. So we're looking for that. We look for drug and alcohol use. If one parent tells us they're seriously concerned about drug or alcohol use, then we can ask the other parent to take a drug screen. I've done that many times. Now, he may say, she may say, I won't do it unless the other parent does it too. So that's fine, we have the other parent do it too, no problem. But we want to know where they are, and a lot of times they can come into your offices and you never know that they're using on a regular basis. So we need to know that if we're going to write a parenting plan for the children. And of course, we're discussing custody too. By the way, the clients never know the difference. They don't know what legal custody is or what physical custody is. It all runs together for them. So they just know they want 50-50. That's what I get all the time, is I want 50-50, which drives me crazy. I hate that phrase. You know, like they're commodities. The children are commodities. But anyway, if you want to talk to your clients about all of these legal terms, please do. Educate them before they come over to us, and then they'll understand it better. I always tell them, call your attorney if you need to, you know, something explained to you. So, you know, we try to do that. We're looking for mental health issues. That is a big issue. Sometimes it's drug use that's caused mental health issues, but there are other reasons. And we need to know, what have they done about these mental health issues? Have they actually tried to commit suicide? Have they tried to commit suicide with their kids in the house? I mean, that's happened. That's happened, and the other parent is petrified to have their children go there. So we can, I ask them if they have any records, if they have a diagnosis, if they have therapy records. They can bring them into mediation, we can review them. And that sometimes helps the other parent feel more comfortable. Now, of course, they don't have to do any of this. If they don't want to participate in mediation, and some people have just said no, we just write a letter to the court and say they didn't participate. You know, we can't force them to do it. And of course, we have an agreement that they sign when they come in that explains all of their rights. You know, you can have an attorney, you can leave mediation at any time, all of that. It's set out, and we can give you a copy. I brought an example if you want it, but I didn't bring copies for everybody because I thought there might be 100 people here. I don't know how many. So we can interview the children through the mediation process if we want to, if we feel like it's really important. In the case where parents seem to be utterly unable to understand a child's point of view, they just know what they want. The parent wants this, they don't care what the kids want, and then I interview the children. They're not the same as in-camera interviews. We don't promise confidentiality. I tell the children, I'm going to share this information with your parents if you approve. Now, if there's something they don't want me to share, I won't share it. But sometimes it will help the parent look at the children in a different light. I've seen it happen right in the mediation. Like I tell them, do you realize your child feels this way? And you can see it on their face, they don't know. They just haven't thought about it. So that can be very helpful. We try not to interview children any more than we need to. We don't want to expose the children to the interview process if we don't have to, but it can be helpful. So we can do that. So as I said, the agreement to mediate talks about the rights and benefits of having legal counsel, confidentiality. I have my own file. All the mediators do. I mean, everybody here is a mediator. So we have our own mediation file that's separate from our other files. And when the mediation is done, those files are all deleted. They're gone. So the only thing that we keep after a mediation is the agreement. And it's in the form of the order. It's the order that we get back stating that the agreement was approved. That's all we keep. So the mediation is entirely confidential. Now, they can bring other people into the mediation. I've had mother-in-laws, I've had, friends, sisters come in. We've had lots of people come in. And you can come in. It's boring for attorneys, though, to sit through mediation because, the old phrase is that mediation is like watching paint dry. Because you go slowly and it's tedious and you're always thinking about what everybody's thinking and how to reframe things and you're not just giving them information or facts. So you're welcome to be there if you don't expect this dynamic process because it's not really dynamic, it's very laid back, calm and quiet. We want to keep it calm because we're trying to teach conflict resolution at the same time. So if you really need to be there, call our office and tell us. I will tell you that I've only had maybe attorneys come 4 times in 30 years. So most attorneys recognize they don't really want to go through this. So, but if you want to, that's fine. Oh, yes, this is another issue. I did have an attorney, I don't know if the attorney's here now, but sent an email, I guess, to Michael, because the issue of domestic violence was raised. There was a protective order. And one of the parents didn't want to come in at all, or didn't want to be in the same room with the other person. Now, we had already done all the interviews, so we understood what was going on, and there wasn't much domestic violence. I will say that, even though I know that they got the protective order. But for that case, I may relent and let them be in separate rooms. I don't do that often either. I can count on 2 fingers how many times I've had clients in separate rooms. The reason for that is because they have to learn to communicate together and cooperate together. That's the whole point of it. If we're going to keep them in separate rooms, they won't be able to parent adequately when they get out of those rooms. So I make them sit there and behave and talk to each other nicely, so they learn that. Now, if it's really high conflict, I don't think we mentioned we have high conflict classes for very high conflict people. So, and we would like them to go through that before mediation, but the time doesn't work because it takes 9 weeks to get through a class, and we don't want to hold the mediation that long. So I probably left out a whole lot of things, but are there any questions?
Yes, what's the cost?
I'm sorry.
Is there a cost for
the cost. It's very cost effective. Oh, an evaluation will cost your client $800. Unless they're on we have a sliding fee scale. So it doesn't usually cost $800. But mediation is cheap. I always feel like we're devalued. It's $50. $50 is all it is.
Flat, or 50 per hour?
50
Is
Per
that
party?
per party.
Does that include, you mentioned self-referral, I assume that means without court intervention or orders or?
Yeah, it's $50 for everybody in the whole world.
Well, Greg's not gonna like that.
I'm sorry. I'm not gonna like it. Sorry.
Is there a wait list for mediation services?
Well, I would say no, except what we just got. How many new cases? I mean, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed here.
18 cases in 2 days.
8 in 2 days. Yeah, there might have to be a list because that's pushing it. I mean, if we had more staff, we could do a lot more, but we don't. So it's hard to get it all done that fast with 8 new cases in 2 days. So, I'm sorry, what?
The staff members, you don't have any staff.
Oh, yeah, we have 3, 4. Well, we're
Four now.
almost at 4. Anybody else? No other questions? You guys are all good. You're going to refer your clients to us? Okay, thanks.
Any agency, any professional in a community can refer people to DRCB. Doesn't have to go through the courts. The only issue we have is we've only had 3 of those this year. So it's very minimal. It would benefit the court because then the court doesn't have to deal with it if they come to a mediated agreement. Or even if they want us to case manage their family issues so that they can get to where they need to be, they do not have to go through the court. Of course, if they are married and need a divorce, they do have to go through the court. We can't stop that. One of the other issues we had is we put on 3 separate types of classes, workshops, and the counseling workshops were on high conflict families and co-parenting, and then we also did parenting skills. So there was a question about our professional content. So what we did is we purchased a program and got trained on these professionals program. So now we have this cooperative, high conflict, co-parenting counseling workshop, which we do. And it addresses the high conflict and the co-parenting together. Now we can still do parenting skills training, but we need several people to need that because we have limited staff. We can't just put it on for one person, 2 people anytime we need to. But it is still available if we get enough people that are referred for something like that. So the next thing we deal with is case management, and I'm going to let Terry talk about that.
Afternoon. Did you guys have a good lunch? No? Oh, you didn't share? You could have left the box out. Maybe we would have took it.
I think there's some in the old magistrate's courtroom still, so help yourselves.
So to piggyback off what Director was saying in reference to those counseling workshops, if you look in the handout that Director gave you, it lists all these sessions and what the topics are in those sessions for those workshops, okay? Right now, we have Ms. Smith and Ms. Robertson that are doing a group ongoing right now, and that one will go, I think, until December 14th. And then we take a couple breaks, get through the holidays, and then the next one will be our new employee, Sarah Hutchins in the back there. Hi, Sarah. And we'll start that one on January 14th. So that would be group 3. So in case management, that is one of the services that we can do self-referrals for, is the workshops. The case management services, if you've reached me in case management, or Miss Emma, or Miss Carolee, or Miss Sarah, you've been in the court system for quite some time. So we're definitely going to get to know each other over the next year. Because case management timeline is up to 1 year. After that year, if there's more services needed, the parents want to continue services or the courts want to continue services, they'll send over a court order If the parents want it, then what we'll do is we'll put in either a status report or an action needed letter to continue the services. So some of the case management principles are, we evaluate and manage cases based on complexity and the case circumstances. I don't think I have had one case management case that's been easy. They've all been high conflict, and they've been in the court anywhere from 2 to 6 years, ladies. So when they get to me, we're going to get to know each other very well. Some of the things that we do is, again, when they come in, we do an intake. So I'm going to read over whatever parenting time plan they've had in mediation or a GAL report that they've had. Some of our families have had quite a few GAL reports and mediation parenting time plans before they reach case management services. So what my job is as a case manager is when the judge sends over a court order, I have to ensure that the parents are following the court order, okay? Recently, I've had quite a few of the attorneys want to have meetings with me before action needed letters go into the court so that we can sit down and discuss how we can help these parents kind of move through the court process, okay? Which to me, if you have an attorney, get your attorney involved. If you don't get your attorney involved, I know I'm going to, because I need to keep the attorneys up to date on what's going on with the case, okay? In reference to like what we do, I can do, again, if the judge doesn't determine a due date for the status reports, then they're every 3 months. Judge Wilson helps keep me on my timeline when he tells me a certain month and day and when that report is to do. Thank you very much, by the way, because that keeps me on task, it keeps me online, okay? So if you have any questions, though, when you get a report from the court, because we don't send you, ladies and gentlemen, reports. All of our reports are given to you by the court clerks, okay? So once the court puts it in Odyssey, then either it's e-filed or they'll send out a copy of that through email, like Miss Emma said, the snail mail, or the court will give it to you, okay? The proactive role for me, though, is to make sure that my clients are following all the court orders. Now, if there's something in the case that comes up, for instance, I meet with the families monthly in person in the office, and that's a long 2 hours. That is a long 2 hours because you have two people in the same room that may have not talked to each other in over a year or two. So now they're in this room, this tiny little room in this round table with this stranger. They're like, oh my God, we have to actually talk to each other? Yeah, you have to learn to communicate for the best interest of your children. How are your children going to learn to communicate if you don't? So, and that's one of the biggest emphases we have in case management is if you can't get along with someone, how do you expect your kids to get along? So in those meetings, we try to address any co-parenting issues or any parenting time issues. And then we do make sure that the clients understand what the case management order is for. And if they're still not sure, like Ms. Carolee said, I'm like, if you're still not sure, then it's really good that you talk to your attorney about it. I do tell my parents anytime that I have a phone call or email or speak to your attorney in person, you are going to get a bill. I tell them right up front. But if you are paying for a legal attorney, then you need to make sure that you keep that attorney up to date on everything that's going on. I've enclosed a copy of the DRCB's Policies and Procedure Manual for the case management. So if you get a chance, read that over. If there's something in there that you feel should be in there that's not, please contact Director Schadler and he can add that to the Policies Procedures Manual. One of the biggest things in case management I found is making sure that I get my family's referrals out to the community, whether it be for mental health, substance abuse, BIP. Does everybody know what BIP is? Okay, like domestic violence, even the children going to therapy. And then if I have a parent that does want to do it and a parent that's resistant, then that's where I go in to put in an action needed letter to send to the court to get a court order. Because if they're coming to me for a year, you're definitely going to go to therapy. And the therapist will take care of all the mental health, emotional, behavioral stuff. And I do get reports from the therapist, like clinical summaries on how the sessions are going so that I can add that to my status reports. Am I moving too much?
No.
Am I talking too loud? Okay. I wasn't sure what the hand was for. Oh, my bad. There you go. Just like move that way. Sorry guys, I'm used to walking when I talk. Oh, did I miss anything? Did I miss anything, Emma? Emma does case management also, so does Director Schadler. Ms. Carolee does case management also, and Ms. Sarah in the back will eventually be doing case management as well. Oh, you already do? Well, there is 5 of us in the county for DRCB. But whatever we can do to help you and your clients, that's what we're here for. Please don't hesitate to call us. Did I miss anything, Director? Any questions? Yes, sir. I just brought it. Nice to see you. I never get to see you.
Yeah. Is an assessment part of case management services, or are terms similar, or?
The assessment is kind of similar. What we do is, let's say I had a client that already had an eval or a GAL or mediation. I will go back into our intake assessment form and go over that assessment form with them again, just to make sure that nothing's changed or if something needs to be added. Like if a parent was, like for Miss Emma, she does a parenting plan, right, in her evals. If one of the parents isn't following it, then I add that to my assessment so that I know I keep track, okay, let's find out what's going on with this parent on why they're not following the parenting time order that the court has put in place. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome, sir. Any other questions? Slow down now, I can't take everybody at once. Oh, we're all good? Well, anytime you have questions, please don't hesitate to contact Director Schadler, okay? Thank you for having us today.
My staff doesn't only just have 2 degrees, they're mediation trained, certified, and registered with the state. They've had training and certification in GAL. They also get parenting coordination training, and they get training for the counseling workshops that we do. We try to be as highly specialized in what we do as we can. Now, some of this training can take up to 3 years to complete, because it all doesn't happen just, immediately. And when it comes to doing our evaluations, Judge Gotch decided that we would use the standards of practice that are promoted by the Association of Family and Conciliation Courts. So those are the guidelines that we follow. So if you have any questions about that, I got to go to a couple of the AFCC conferences with Judge Gotch, and we discussed everything that was involved with DRCB. And what we have now is basically what he decided was the best. Having the master's level people, so we weren't just dragging somebody off the street and having them do evals, which seemed to be the practice for a while. So now it's not the case. So if you have any questions about my staff, our professionalism, we do have a grievance process, and if you're working with your clients, you may let them know if they do have a grievance with us. All we require is a written type statement that is signed and dated. Once they do that, it's a grievance, and I will look into it and respond to them, either verbally or in writing. If they're not happy with that, then it will be kicked upstairs to the next level, which is the circuit court judge. Any questions on any of that? We want to improve. So we're open. That's why we're giving all this information. If you have input, please give it to us. We want to get better at what we do. The only way to do that is to hear feedback. And we don't normally get a lot of that. We do get some, but sometimes it's very limited and focused from certain individuals. Thank you very much.
Thank you.